Cooper Ingle is getting the call to Cleveland. We'll talk about his arrival and a whole lot more coming up on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Hello and welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We are sponsored by SeatGeek. I'm Clay Link here on this Friday, joined by Erik Halterman. Erik, really appreciate you stepping in for Todd, and I know you're doing a lot of media nowadays, so thanks for carving out an extra hour to talk with me today. Good to have you on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and looking forward to it. You and I don't get to actually host together all that often, but we got a doubleheader today. We'll also be recording MLB Network Radio for anybody who wants to check that out tomorrow evening on Sirius XM.
Absolutely. Definitely looking forward to that. And big news for Cleveland, calling up Cooper Ingle. Not official yet, at least last I saw. It could become official during this show. We'll see. But pretty big name among the prospect community. James Anderson's 80th ranked prospect overall over at RotoWire. My question for you, though, is how do you see Cooper Ingle fitting in here on this Cleveland roster?
Yeah, this is a tough one to figure out because this is, as you said, a very real prospect. Somebody who not just has plenty of pedigree, but has great performance at AAA this year. 967 OPS, 12 homers in 51 games. This guy can hit, not just for a catcher. He can hit, period. He's somebody that James Anderson and I were talking about on Farm Fridays earlier in the year on Sirius XM, thinking, hey, this guy looks like he could be up pretty soon and could be a real force at catcher. But then the Guardians went out and got Patrick Bailey. And it seems like they really like defense behind the plate, right? If you already have Austin Hedges and then you go out and get Patrick Bailey, you clearly have a type behind the plate. Yeah. And I don't think Ingle fits into that, right? So we're looking at him as a luxury David Fry, somebody they already have on the roster, right? A guy who can catch if you need, but also has the bat to handle other spots. I really think that there is a downside here where you pick him up in fantasy and he plays twice a week, but the upside here is pretty big. So I'm not totally sure how to play this one. I think I want to place a bid on him just in case it works out, but I'm not at all confident that we're going to get Ingle in the lineup, 5 times a week or something like that, right?
It's hard to figure out, yeah, because if you look at that depth chart, like you said, they have 3 other guys who can catch on the roster currently, Bailey, Hedges, and Fry. Ingle could DH a little bit, but also left field looks like a potential path for Ingle. I think only 7 starts down there at Columbus in left field, but you look at Steven Kwan, and he's really fallen off a cliff this year. 211 average for a guy who really made his name early on in his major league career with high average and bat to ball. So potential avenue there in left. We'll see. But Ingle, yeah, you mentioned his numbers in the minors this year, really impressive, and he's been above average by WRC plus at every single stop in the minor leagues, and routinely in the 130 to 150 range with WRC plus. So definitely can hit, and I think in 2 catcher leagues he's probably an upgrade for a lot of managers. So we'll wait and see on Cooper Ingle, but I'm excited to see what he can do after his showing at Columbus this season. 12 homers, wow. And drawn a ton of walks, 18.6% walk rate for Cooper Ingle. But some pickups from the RotoWire Stake League last night. Not a super busy week this week in terms of spending. Ryan Kreidler for Minnesota looks like he's taking over at shortstop for them. Kiter Montero, I think, starting tonight. So with the way our league works, that would line up for a 2-start week for him. Brady Singer at 4. Had 15 quality starts last season, but it's been pretty ugly for him. Do you see any hope for Singer? I know he's not a big strikeout guy, but do you think he clears the bar in most mixed leagues? Should be rostered, Brady Singer?
I think that when Brady Singer is on, he's a fine, deeper mixed league guy. Problem is how much you want to start him at home unless he's really, really on. I think he probably should be on a roster, though. He's been on a pretty decent run of form. His last 4 starts, he's given up a total of 4 earned runs with 23 strikeouts in 22 innings. So this version of Brady Singer, good enough, but that park is really tough, and Singer isn't an exciting arm by any means. So I'm just taking a look at who he projects to face going forward. At Pittsburgh this weekend, I'd start him there. But then home against Baltimore, home against the Cubs, that's what we currently project him for. Heading into the All-Star break, I don't know. Maybe this version of Singer you use in those games in a deep league, but it's still pretty borderline.
Yeah, not a guy you're particularly excited to start in fantasy, but I think better than he's shown overall this season. So I could see it. I think a $0 bid in on him, but he goes for 4. Wade Meckler getting a lot of run there for that disastrous Angels team. Christian Javier at 3. Could see that. Jose Fermin at 3. Reynaldo Lopez seemingly sliding back into the Atlanta rotation. So people really kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel for pitching help. Reynaldo Lopez, I don't know. Do you see any hope for him with Atlanta? Obviously, good team context here.
Yeah, and he has pitched well recently in relief. His last 4 appearances, it's 7 1/3 with no earned runs, just 3 hits. But season-long numbers pretty ordinary for Reynaldo Lopez. There's also the fact that Hurston Waldrop is healthy again at AAA. He's been activated off the IL, but is still down at AAA because I think he wasn't actually doing very well on his rehab outings. But as he gets further and further stretched out, I could see him getting called up and taking Lopez's spot. Also, AJ Smith-Shawver recently started a rehab assignment. So there's a pretty real chance Lopez doesn't have a starting role for more than, 3-4 weeks. But if you're thinking pretty short term, I think you could probably do worse. The win chances should at least be pretty good as long as they think he's stretched out for 5 innings. He's set to face the Giants in San Francisco tonight and then a home start against St. Louis next Thursday. So for those Friday to Thursday weeks, it's a pretty decent 2-start there. I just don't know how exciting he'll be in ordinary 1-start weeks, and I just don't know how much longer you're going to have him as a starter. So a fine roster filler, but nobody I would place a particularly large bid on.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then Jose Cabrera of the Diamondbacks, seemingly, in that rotation for the foreseeable future. Michael Soroka out again, and man, Zach Gallen's been rough, but lined up to start tonight. But Jose Cabrera getting an opportunity, pitched pretty well in his debut. 5 innings, 3 hits, 5 scoreless. Pretty good K rate in the minors. Didn't translate over in his first start of the year with the big league club, but he lines up to face Tampa Bay tomorrow, and then versus Milwaukee tentatively at San Diego before the break. So he's a guy that, while he didn't show a ton of swing and miss in that debut with only 3 Ks, the fact that he has shown more of a strikeout punch in the minors makes me pretty intrigued with Jose Cabrera.
Yeah, I think there could be something there. I think he's a decent dart throw. Doesn't look like he was even on the top 400 prospect rankings at all, though. So this is not some guy we were, waiting to get the call up. Also, his minor league numbers pretty ordinary before this year. The strikeouts were way up at AA, up to 29%, but then they fell all the way down to 22% in 3 AAA starts. So it's basically just those 9 starts at the AA level this year where he really looked like he might have a pretty impactful big league future. But you could do worse than a guy who has a job and who's shown some decent performances in the minors recently. No real confidence about this one, but reasonable dart throw, I think.
Yeah, not one where you can really hang your hat on, pedigree or, long-standing minor league record, but take a shot if you're like a lot of these managers in this league, just scraping for pitching, and I was one of them. We'll talk about a couple of my pickups in a second here. Just want to mention too, Cedric Mullins at $1, Alex Call at $1, and I picked up Mike Burrows. It's been a brutal season so far for Burrows. Second worst ERA among qualified starters at 5.48, only worse than Jeffrey Springs. But he did have a somewhat encouraging outing his last time out, Burrows. He only allowed 2 hits, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, 2 hits, 1 earned run on a homer at Toronto. So this is one where any sort of flash I have to jump on because I'm operating with a pretty low fab budget the rest of the way. He does get Minnesota at home his next time out, so this is one where, again, not much to really feel good about, but at least he showed a little something, a little improvement in his last outing, Mike Burrows.
Yeah, when I saw you picked him up, I went and checked his game log to see, oh, was I missing something there? Has he been on a run of good starts? Well, he's been on a one
Not
start
really.
run of good starts. That's a run of some sort. I do think the one thing you mentioned, you said he had the second worst ERA among qualified starters. The fact that he still is a qualified starter,
Yeah,
despite having an ERA that bad,
I had
that's
to
basically
check
the main
because,
appeal. Yeah.
yeah,
He can be this bad, and the Astros still need him, right? So he's definitely got his job. It's not been horrible for him under the hood. The Sierra 465, I mean, that's not good, but it's better than his 548 ERA. He's not walking a ton of guys or anything like that, just not really missing bats like he did last year. So if that does come back, you'll have a perfectly serviceable starter. And if it doesn't, still maybe a decent streamer, I think.
yeah. I kind of like Burrows coming into the season. In fact, I got in a bidding war and tout wars for him with Lauren Auerbach. It was kind of funny to look back on now, just given how bad Burrows has been. But we
Did
both
you
were.
successfully manage to lose that bidding
Yeah,
war?
I did. Thankfully,
Nice, nice.
I let him go at a certain point. But we both had way too much money saved for the end game, and we were. It's pretty comical looking back that we were duking it out over Mike Burrows. But I also picked up Tyler Mahle, another guy who, just one start that you can recently that you can look at and say, oh, decent. A rough season overall, but he's back from the injured list. Mahle, good outing in his return. 5 2/3 scoreless innings, only 2 hits, 4 Ks, 2 walks. So this Giants team is a mess, and I don't think I'm going to be starting Mahle. It's just kind of more of a bench piece for now, and hopefully I don't have to, frankly. But he's another guy that I just feel like is better than he's shown overall. Had a couple, one 8-run blow up that really marred his overall numbers. Tyler Mahle.
Yeah, the park is just so good for Tyler Mahle.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
He only needs to be just barely okay. And if you look at the underlying numbers, the ERA estimators, a lot of them in the low fours, a 410 xFIP, a 423 Sierra. If he can pitch to that level going forward, you'll start him in a decent number of his home starts, I think.
Yeah, just kind of a guy who, I had like Lucas Giolito on my roster. He had to go. So just swapping him out for a healthy arm. We'll see if hopefully I don't have to turn to Tyler Mahle, but if I have to, maybe probably worse options out there. Other names to consider: Cooper Ingle, who we led off the show with. Kyle Teal is also back. That's kind of a fun either or. Kyle Teal had some hype before he got injured in the World Baseball Classic. Activated on Monday. 1 for 7 so far in his brief time. Who would you rather have in a 15-team standard mixed league between Cooper Ingle and Kyle Teal behind the plate?
I think probably Teal, because Teal should just be the White Sox starting catcher going forward. Now, if you told me that the Guardians are carving out, 4 starts a week for Ingle, he's going to play 3 times a week in left field and once a week behind the plate. If it was 4, maybe 5 starts, something comparable to a starting catcher's workload, I might consider looking Ingle's way. Certainly, the numbers were that good in the minors. To be fair, the numbers were very good in the minors and pretty good in the majors last year for Teal too. So I think it's pretty comfortably Teal for me, just because of the much safer playing time situation. But if the playing time does end up equal, it wouldn't surprise me too much if Ingle outperforms him.
Yeah, I think I lean toward your side. Just such a clear path, you'd think, for Teal. I would not be surprised if Ingle is sent down in short orders, because he's kind of a luxury piece right now. But Cleveland could use that offense, so it's not super far apart. If you want to aim for a little bit of upside, not that Teal is lacking upside completely, but I think Ingle probably has a bit higher upside. Before we get into 2-star pitchers, I just want to mention, too, another big piece of news from today. Mets firing Carlos Mendoza. I said last week on the show with Todd that the Mets were a disaster, maybe not quite on par with the Red Sox, that level of disaster, but I think they're like 2-8 over their last 10. they've reached that Red Sox level of disaster, I think. And Carlos Mendoza, the fall guy for now, but I don't know. Do you think David Stearns? It seems like he's really caught the ire of Mets fans. Uh, I don't know. It feels like his stock has fallen and could be on the hot seat himself.
Yeah, I'm generally against firing managers most of the time. I don't think managers actually do that much. And I think usually the reason why your team is underperforming is your players aren't playing very well and are getting hurt. But, when you're 13 games under 500, which actually is the same mark the Red Sox are on, it makes sense that somebody like Mendoza's got to go. Doesn't really have any real track record of success as a big league manager. He had one playoff appearance in his 2.5 years with the Mets and didn't win the division any of those years, despite having some of the highest payrolls in baseball backing him. And the vibes just didn't seem good around the Mets. But to be fair, when are the vibes ever good around the Mets? I couldn't really tell if that was his fault. On the David Stearns thing, though, think about how good the Brewers still are. This is the thing I've been trying to figure out. I thought that the Brewers' magic, where they always overperformed their projections and all that, I thought that was because of Craig Counsell, but then they lost him to the Cubs and kept doing it. I thought maybe it was due to David Stearns. They lost him to the Mets and they're still doing it. I don't know where in that Brewers organization the magic is located, but it seems like it probably wasn't Counsell and it probably wasn't Stearns either.
Yeah, it's amazing how the Brewers haven't missed a step since losing those two. That's a good point. It's pretty amazing. And at this time, like 3 years ago, when Stearns was leaving Milwaukee, he could do no wrong. He was like
Right?
the the prodigy of baseball front offices, and now the narrative is kind of flipped completely. So, while I do agree that a change was probably at this point necessary with Carlos Mendoza, can't put it all on him with this roster construction. You look at like Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos. It's like what happened to these guys? Roster construction issues, but also I would say some coaching issues here with these guys just regressing to the point of barely being passable big leaguers on this team. Pretty rough, but Mets fans can now direct their ire to somebody else, at least on the coaching side. I think Stearns will still be catching plenty of heat because I don't think it's going to be salvageable. I think it's over for the Mets this season. Well, let's get into our two-star pitchers here momentarily. We'll first pause briefly for a quick word from our prepaid sponsors. All right, we are back here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Clay Link here with RotoWire's Erik Halterman, stepping in for Todd Zola today. Appreciate that. Always good to talk with you, Erik. And we'll do our normal thing with the two-star pitcher grades, 0 to 5. I kind of am much more, off the cuff with these. So, Todd's very scientific and has his pitcher rankings that he uses to grade these guys. I think it's fine if we go off the cuff here today. Eduardo Rodriguez to start things off. By the way, you can follow along with us on our probable pitchers grade. I think the best probable starters grid out there. A custom start date of 6/29/2026. Already through June here. It's pretty amazing. Then you can click show starters. And Erod is having a great year so far. Really is kind of become the ace of this team versus San Francisco versus Milwaukee. 2 home starts for Erod, 6-2 with a 2.27 ERA. Not a 5 pitcher. I typically like to reserve the 5s for the very top end, but I'm tempted to go 4 here. I don't see how you could really sit Erod unless you have a bad feeling about the Milwaukee start. I'm going to go 4 here.
Yeah, I think 4 is reasonable. I'm tempted to go with just a 3 just because the underlying numbers are so ordinary for Rodriguez. I mean, the ERA estimators, 4.44 xFIP, a 4.81 Sierra. Do I trust him to just keep beating them by this much? I'm not so sure. So Maybe I'll go 3 there, but I understand the 4 as well. He's certainly producing, and if you've been riding that so far, probably keep riding it. So I think you start him, but you gotta watch out for when this does suddenly fall on his face. I think there's some real risk there with Rodriguez.
Yeah, that regression monster is creeping up behind. You can feel him, and it's wise to point that out that the underlying numbers point to Erod kind of being the Erod we've seen over the years, not like a sudden resurgence that you can really feel good about continuing with Erod. But I'm gonna, because of that home matchup with San Francisco, I'm gonna go 4. But I got you down as a 3 on Erod. What about Gage Jump? What a start to his big league career. 3-1 with a 2.04 ERA. Big test though to start next week at home against the Dodgers. Then quite a bit of an easier matchup to end the week versus Miami. Versus the Dodgers, scary, but as a lefty, he could neutralize some of those big bats. The bat from the left side. Oh man, I like Gage Jump. Let me just double check. How many strikeouts does he have? 35 and 35 in the third innings. 10 walks, 0 home runs allowed. That's helped quite a bit. The Dodgers matchup, I was tempted to go 3, but I think he's shown enough. And I think he's up to the challenge. I'm going to go 4.
Well, I will give us the same grades then as for Rodriguez. I'll go 3. I am just very scared of the Dodgers. I'm scared of 2 home starts. Gage Jump's given up 8 runs through 6 starts, which is excellent. 7 of those runs have come at home. So when he's pitching at home, he's fine. When he's pitching on the road, he's been amazing, and I expect that to continue. So a guy who's decent at home against the Dodgers, still a little too scary.
Yeah, that home park, it's not that absurd Vegas launching pad, but it's still very, very hitter friendly there in Sacramento. So I get where you're coming from. Grant Holmes for Atlanta. He's versus St. Louis versus the Mets. Kind of a middling start for him. Decent, but not great. 4.17 ERA. But you love the team context, and you love that both of these are at home for Grant Holmes. And yeah, the Mets are a disaster. So, Holmes, I think, is a guy I'm going to put on that 3 tier for, in my opinion. Don't hate him as a pickup this week if he's out there.
Yeah, I think the matchups are reasonable. It just has to be a pretty deep league for him to be pretty interesting because a 4.17 ERA, a 1.42 whip on the year, and the ERA estimators say it could be even higher. Like the win chances in any deeper league, reasonable enough to have him for these 2 starts. Just not a pitcher I'm very excited about these days.
Yeah, spent a decade in the minors and came up and has had some success, but there's a lot of talk about this team looking to add to the rotation at the trade deadline, and he could, I think, be a much bigger weapon for this team out of the bullpen. So we'll see if he eventually transitions back to the bullpen. No 2-star pitchers for Baltimore, but then for Boston, Ranger Suarez versus Washington at the Angels. Pretty nice little 2-step for him, and 2.83 ERA. I don't know if he's a 5. Man, but these matchups he might be. Versus Washington at the Angels. Washington, though, as we've talked about on this show, and I'm sure you have, not really the doormat offensively that a lot of people thought they would be. Actually putting up quite a few runs. I think I'm going to go 4. I could see the case for a 5 on Ranger Suarez.
Yeah, do you reserve 5 for only great pitchers making 2 starts? Because if you do, then maybe he's a 4. But if 5 means there's no league where I would reasonably sit him, then I think Ranger Suarez is a 5. Okay. If that's the threshold we're using, I do think that the Nationals are a little bit scary somehow, but Suarez has been excellent. He actually has the highest strikeout rate of his career, too, 25%. He's been pitching really well, and these lineups aren't that scary, so I'm happy to go 5. I got to be higher than you sometimes. Right?
Hey, I like that. Good that we have some differing numbers here. And yeah, it's extremely tentative, and you don't want to bank on this, but if you look at the opposing pitchers for those 2 for Suarez, Miles Michaelis, Sam Aldeguerri, you'd think even though that team's in rough shape, pretty good win potential there in both outings for Ranger Suarez. Shota Imanaga for the Cubs. The lefty is 5-6 with a 4.40 ERA. versus San Diego versus St. Louis. Imanaga was off to such a great start, but let me just see. He must be. I got to win his last time out, but that was his first win since May 7th. So he was on a pretty rough stretch there. In fact, over his last 44 and two-thirds innings, he has a 6.65 ERA, but a 1.19 WHIP. So, home runs have been an issue for him lately. 3 his last time out. In fact, he's given up 3 or more homers in 4 of his last 6 starts. Kind of hard to do, I'd imagine. But it is Shota Imanaga versus San Diego versus St. Louis. Definitely can't put him in that 5 tier, given how he's struggled lately. And I think I'm only going to go 3 just because of because of the gopheritis that Shota Imanaga has lately.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3 as well, but really this one's either a 4 or a 2, depending on which way the wind is blowing in Wrigley Field.
Oh,
If you've
good
got
point.
if you've got a farmer's almanac and you could tell me what the wind is going to be on Monday and Sunday of next week, when the wind's blowing in, you love a guy who gives up a ton of fly balls, and when it's blowing out, you hate it. And I think that's why Imanaga was on a roll early. When the weather's cold, the ball's not flying. Great, give up a bunch of soft fly balls, but when the ball starts flying, and also maybe have you seen the bits about how there might be a different ball the last
Yeah, I did see that.
2-3 weeks, maybe 6 weeks? I don't remember exactly when the cutoff is, but some
So
theories
wacky.
that the drag on the ball has changed mid-season, and that might line up more or less with when Shota Imanaga started giving up way more homers, and that tracks. So
Yeah.
he might be a 2 if the wind's blowing out and the gopher ball is there, and he might be a 4 if it's blowing in and he gets a
Yeah.
nice ball. So
I've been seeing more and more about that. It's pretty incredible, but also you don't put it past MLB to do something like that. We've seen
right.
fluctuations in the ball over the years, and did you see that little clip of, I think it was Acuna holding up
Yeah.
2 balls and kind of looking at seemingly evaluating for differences. It was it's
I would
strange,
trust
but
his judgment. He knows a thing or two about baseball.
yeah, I think he knows a little bit. But you've been to a few games at Wrigley this year, haven't you?
Yeah, I went to Imanaga's last home start
Oh,
about 10 days ago, which
oh,
was
cool.
one where he didn't give up a homer. It was also the PCA cycle game, so that was a
Oh,
lot of fun.
wow.
First time I've seen one of those in person. It was a reverse cycle too. It was homer, triple, double, single. So after he got the homer and the triple, the whole crowd knew what was up. It was pretty cool to see, 40,000 people anticipating a cycle for an hour and a half and then have the payoff at the end. It was a pretty fun time.
Yeah, that's a cool thing to be able to see live. I've never seen a cycle live myself, but PCA, for all the talk about his poor second half last year, and it did get bad, and some issues early on this season, he's the number 3 fantasy outfielder in terms of earned value so far by our calculator. Check it out, earned auction values at RotoWire. Jordan Alvarez, who gained outfield eligibility not too long ago, James
Right.
Wood, and then Pete Crow Armstrong. So he's really caught fire lately, PCA. Back to our 2-star pitchers, though. Nick Lodolo, the lefty, had that blister issue. It's been an issue throughout his time in the majors, the recurring blister. At Milwaukee versus Baltimore. I expect better from Lodolo. This Reds team, though, doesn't provide much offensive support, but does sound like he's in good shape. He does have a wrist issue. He was struck on the left wrist his last time out, Nick Lodolo, but X-rays negative, so seems to be in the clear. At Milwaukee versus Baltimore, am I kind of a homer and expecting better from Lodolo, or do you expect better from him as well moving forward?
I expect better. We've never seen him with an 18% strikeout rate like he has
Yeah.
now. He's usually an above average strikeout rate guy. So if the strikeouts start coming back, and they might have, his last start out, 6 strikeouts in 4 innings, that's pretty encouraging. If we had last year's Nick Lodolo, this is at least a 4 for me, but this year's Nick Lodolo, it might just be a 3.
Yeah, I'm going 3. We've seen the strikeouts kind of trend down in recent years, but this is kind of a surprising level that they're at right now. Because he has that big sweeping curveball that you would think would get a lot of whiffs, but he just I don't know. Something's missing here with Nick Lodolo right now. So I'm going to go 3 as well. The at Milwaukee really scares you, even though they don't really have, like, look at that lineup and say, oh, God, there's a ton of big boppers, but they work you and they somehow put a bunch of runs on the board. So I'm going 3 as well on Nick Lodolo. For Cleveland, Parker Messick, Tanner Bybee. Messick's been really good. Bybee's been better lately. I think Bybee was like 0-8 to start the season. Messick, though, 7-4 overall with a 2.67 ERA versus Texas, versus the White Sox. Not a guy I'm going to elevate to a 5 level, but man, I'm tempted to go 4 here. I think I am. No, I'm going 3.
Interesting. I think I might just go 5. I think I might be all
Wow,
in on
really?
Parker Messick. The guy's got
You're a believer.
he's got almost a 20% strikeout minus walk rate. It's a 27%
Wow.
strikeout rate, 7.8% walk rate. This guy's just really good. He's got a broad pitch mix that he knows what to do with it. And even lately, he's been trending up. If anything, 9 and 10 strikeouts in his last 2. I think I'm fully buying in on Parker Messick, and
Wow, 5.
maybe I'm throwing out 5s too easily. This is my second already, but I think I'll do
Hey,
it.
it's okay. Well, hey, you make some good points. I mean, that K minus walk is great, and 2 home starts, so I get it. Bybee, not that level of pitcher, but has been better lately. Hard guy to trust though, because he's kind of up and down, Jekyll and Hyde a little bit. Tanner Bybee, I do like the way he's been progressing, and I think I have him in TGFBI and maybe another league. So versus Texas versus the White Sox. I think I'm going to go 2 on Bybee, just a tough guy to trust.
I'm willing to go up to 3, but no higher than that. He's on a better run lately. A 2.23 ERA over his last 5 starts, though there's been some good luck there. A 1.75 BABIP. ERA estimators in the high 3s over that stretch. I think he's a fine pitcher who's in a decent enough run, and those opponents aren't too tough. So a solid 3 is fine by me.
Gotcha. Well, here's one I think we'll agree on. Kyle Freeland, got to be a 0, right? 2 home starts.
Yeah, don't
That's
even
a
need to know the opponents or check his recent game log. It's Kyle Freeland at home.
Yeah, that's no reason to consider that. But for the White Sox, Sean Burke has been decent. I think they've deployed him behind an opener a couple times. But 5-4, the 3.71 ERA, not on the same level as some of his teammates there, but still doing really well overall. At Baltimore, at Cleveland, same for Eric Fetty in that rotation. Fetty, not going to pay much attention to, but Burke, I have him in the main event, and I think I might have to turn him loose. Don't feel good about it, but desperate times call for desperate measures. So I'm going to go 2 on Sean Burke.
I think I'll go 3, coming off 2 very strong starts, 14-2 strikeout to walk. And the overall numbers are totally solid. Strikeout and walk numbers right around league average. I think Burke is a totally fine pitcher. Those are decent enough outings. Fetty, I mean, I guess he's a 1, maybe. Is he even a 0? There's just not a lot there. I'll go 1 because at least it's not in cores, but
Yeah. I'll go 1 on Fetty. I don't feel good about it, but
the White Sox are good now. He might get you a win.
I know that's so amazing that this turnaround they've had over the last couple of years. No 2-star pitchers for Detroit. I think they're getting Flaherty back soon, maybe even this weekend. So tentatively, we'll of course continue to keep this updated. And same situation with the Houston Astros. But what an outing yesterday by Tetsuya Imai. 10 Ks. He really seems to be finding himself at the big league level.
Yeah, what in the world are we supposed to do with that? Am I from start to start? I mean, he's got a
Yeah.
10 strikeout start. He's got an 11 strikeout start in his last 2. And the start before that, he couldn't even complete 1 inning, which is
Yeah.
the second time he's done that in 11 starts this year. So inconsistent, but was pretty well liked coming over from Japan. I think he's the kind of guy you want to have on your roster just in case it clicks. And based on the last 2 starts, it looks like it might have clicked already.
And no 2-star pitchers for KC. They have 2 off days next week. So
Weird.
that actually provides a pretty good opportunity. We'll pause briefly and I'll bring you a couple quick words from our sponsors, including our new sponsor, friends over at Gridiron Trivia. But first, a word from SeatGeek. You know that sound? That's the ballpark roaring to life. That's 40,000 fans who didn't wait until next time. Look, we get it. Life gets busy. But here's the thing. Tonight's game is happening whether you're there or not. And SeatGeek makes getting there ridiculously easy. As the official ticket marketplace of MLB, SeatGeek has seats to every ballpark, every matchup, every rivalry game you've been meaning to catch. Find last minute tickets, compare prices so you know you're getting a good deal, and buy with confidence thanks to the buyer guarantee. Forget scrolling through someone else's stadium photos, forget the wish I was there comments. Tonight you could be the one posting because the best baseball memories, they don't happen on your couch. They happen when you grab your crew, head to the park, and let the game take over. Open SeatGeek or buy tickets directly from RotoWire via the MLB lineups page. Your seats are waiting. And also from Gridiron Trivia, if you're the kind of sports fan who can't help but debate stats, remember random NFL facts, or spend way too much time thinking about fantasy football, you've got to check out Gridiron Trivia. It's a daily NFL trivia app packed with fun game modes like Red Zone, where you identify players based on stat clues, Reverse Immaculate, which flips the classic grid challenge on its head, and Higher Lower, where every choice can make or break your streak. Whether you're looking to challenge your friends in private rooms or compete against football fans from around the world, there's always a new way to test your NFL knowledge. Baseball season might be in full swing, but football fans know there's never really an off season. Download Gridiron Trivia today by clicking the link in the description or searching Gridiron Trivia in the App Store or Google Play. We appreciate their sponsorship of the show. And we will get back to our two-star pitchers. Angels, too, looking like potential no two-star options, although I'm going to have to make the call to remove Grayson Rodriguez from next week. So that would line up Ryan Johnson, but I don't think we need to even include Ryan Johnson because he's really struggled, and I think he'd both be a zero for us. Now, Eric Lauer, I think he worked behind an openers last time out, but man, he's been a lot better since joining the Dodgers, surprise, surprise. At the Athletics versus San Diego, I have him in Tout Wars head-to-head, which is only a 12-team league. It is a points league, but he's been a net positive since I picked him up after he jumped to the Dodgers. The Sacramento start scares you, though. But man, the team contacts, the way he's been pitching, I'm thinking a 3 on Eric Lauer.
I think a 3 is reasonable, mainly because win chances are so good. I wonder if I'm lower than you on Gage Jump because of fears of Sacramento. Should I be a little bit lower on Eric Lauer too? But I think if you're looking for two-star pitchers, one of the main things you're looking for is wins. And I think basically any Dodgers two-starter, I don't think you could really go lower than a 3 as long as they're at least competent. Lauer still isn't striking out many bats with the Dodgers, but he has been pitching well. So I'm willing to go a 3, even though I'm pretty scared of that first one.
Yeah, same. I would be happy if the Dodgers deployed an opener in front of them again. Just helps with those win chances. So
For sure.
we'll see if they go that route. For Miami, Sandy Alcantara and Yuri Perez. They both got to go 2 cores to start the week, then at the Athletics. Wow. A couple tough venues for these arms here. Sandy, I think he just recently set the record for the franchise record for strikeouts, didn't he? Kind of an impressive stat. Just kind of reflects his longevity in that rotation there. At Colorado, at the Athletics, man, those are scary. I'm thinking Sandy. First thought was a 3, but then I was like, oh god, I hate these matches. But I still think I'm going to put a 3 on Sandy. Maybe it's too much on like the name, but I feel like he can overcome these and at least turn in decent outings. And I don't fear too much of a blow up, although there is that potential.
Yeah, man, there are not too many pitchers who I would use in these two outings.
Yeah.
Sacramento is closer to Colorado than it is to the rest of the league by a lot of the park factors. I do think, though, is given the way they've both been pitching recently, a 3 is okay. I don't feel great about it, but Alcantara 2.60 ERA his last 5 starts, and Yuri Perez actually has been on. Well, I guess this is either side of his trip to the IL. His last couple starts before he hit the IL, he had 14 strikeouts and no walks in 10 1/3, and then he just came back, only struck out 1 in 4 2/3, but also only gave up 1 run. Maybe it's just a 2 for him because he's only been back for 1 start and didn't miss many bats. In normal parks, if these were both home, I think we're looking at easily a 4 and a 3, but I guess both on the road, a 3 and a 2 is fine.
That's what I wrote down too. So I'm with you. And I think with Yuri, he returned from the IL and only threw 68 pitches. So maybe another start or two before he's, fully let off the chain and allowed to rack up a normal type of pitch count. So that may hold you back a little bit. I got 3 on Alcantara, 2 on Perez. Feels about right. Brandon Sproat for the Brewers, as good as the Brewers have been, Sproat has not been a very strong piece of this rotation. 5.43 ERA. Got to wonder if his time in the rotation's running out, especially with Robert Gosser pitching well as an option, and Logan Henderson, I believe, is inching his way back. So kind of a make or break week here potentially for Brandon Sproat versus the Reds. That should be a good one for him. But then at Arizona, same 2-step for Shane Drohan. Sproat, I can only give, I think, a 1. I recently dropped Drohan in a league, so maybe a 2. I'm going to go 1 and 2 on Sproat and Drohan.
I'm willing to go up to a 2 on Sproat only because he's coming off of one of the best starts anyone has had this year. Pretty much shocking there. Sproat, his 7 starts before his last time out against the Reds, he had a 6 ERA, but last time out, he went 6 scoreless innings with 10 strikeouts, no walks, and 1 hit. I would give him at least a 2 just for that start alone. Even though,
and the fact that he gets the Reds again,
exactly,
nice.
Which he's shown he has no problem with them.
True.
Drohan, the innings is just barely reaching 5 or not even getting there in his last few, and that's a main problem here. Because again, if you're looking for 2-start pitchers, wins is one of the main reasons to do that, right? If you're just trying to protect your ratios, then you just get a guy who's got one really good one. So if you really want the wins and he's not necessarily going deep enough to get them, then maybe we go no higher than a 2 on Drohan. I think that's fine, even though I do think he's somewhat interesting, and I wouldn't mind having him on my roster. And if I did, I probably would use him. So maybe I've just described a 3, but we'll go with a 2.
Yeah, I'm with you there on Drohan. And Sproat, good to point that out. And I do worry about him against non-Reds opponents, but hey, he gets the
fair.
Reds to start, and at home, so I get where you're coming from. Zebby Matthews for the Minnesota Twins at Houston, at the Yankees. Hard to feel good about him. I do still think, he's kind of a theme of the show. I just think he's better than he's shown so far. But very little to hang your hat on. I'm going to go 2, I think, on Zebby.
I'll drop to a 1 just because I'm really scared of those 2 opponents. I think there's a chance that he could have an ERA north of 9 this week. He just hasn't missed enough bats this season. Previous years, he was missing bats and not walking many guys and having a bad ERA anyway. This year, the walks are still down, but the strikeouts are down too. Even though it's his career best ERA, it's still 4.56. So need to see a little more from Zebby before I'm willing to use him at Houston and at the Yankees.
Yeah, fair enough. Now for the Mets, we talked. They fired Carlos Mendoza today. Nolan McLean, I feel like, is 5 type of pitcher. He has 5 potential. Hasn't really pitched to that level this season. Now he's got 2 road starts at Toronto, at Atlanta. Toronto maybe not as scary as we thought coming in, but those are still pretty daunting. I really love the arm, though, so I'm going to go, I'm having a hard time imagining leagues where I'd sit McLean. So I'm going to go 4, but with some trepidation here.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. I think you got to use him pretty much everywhere. even though things haven't quite been what you wanted, the underlying numbers are still better. He's somebody who's been lit up a few times. He has a 7, a 6, and a 6 in the earned run column this season. He has no 4s or 5s. So 3 of his starts, he's allowed 6 or more, and in the other 13, he's allowed 3 or fewer. So usually he's pretty solid. It's just when things go bad, it's gone quite bad for McLean, usually due to homers. Those are actually the only 3 starts where he's allowed multiple homers. So certainly these lineups could hit some homers and it could go bad, but I still am overall pretty optimistic for Nolan McLean.
So you're going 4 as well on McLean?
Yep.
Gotcha. Well, Ryan Weathers of the Yankees versus Detroit versus Minnesota. The lefty's been really good his last couple times out. Only 2 earned runs over the last 12 and a third, 14 Ks to 3 walks. With Weathers, you're just kind of always wondering if he's going to get hurt. I think he still has yet to clear 100 major league innings in the season. That's going back to 2021 too. So there's always that risk, but that the risk is there with pretty much any pitcher. Versus Detroit versus Minnesota. I like that 2-step. I think I'm only going to go 3 because I'm not really fully sold on his last couple starts.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll go up to a 4. I think the overall body of work is quite impressive. 27% strikeout rate with a 7% walk rate. I think you could easily make the case that I should be going 5 if I went with a 5 on Parker Messick, but the surface results have been a little bit better for Messick than Weathers. Weathers actually has an ERA just shy of 4, but I still think this is a pretty good pitcher. Innings concerned, certainly. I might try to sell high after this week or something like that, given that he could head to the pen once the Yankees get a little healthier. But I think as long as he's still in there, I have a pretty decent amount of confidence in him.
Yeah, you like that both of those are at home.
Right.
And yeah, I get where you're coming from. Now, Aaron Nola, I'm looking forward to getting your take here because you are a Phillies guy. Any signs of hope at all with Nola? Any reasons for optimism with the veteran Aaron Nola?
Well, the reason would be the same as it was last year, which is that the ERA estimators still have him in the high 3s, even though the actual ERA this year it's 5.58. Last year it's 6.01. I think the reason for that is he just gets hit really hard. Strikeout rates are slightly better than average, walk rates better than average as well, but he's got a pretty serious home run problem the last couple years, but he's had elevated home run issues his whole career. He doesn't have that much velocity, right? So when he does leave one over the middle, big league hitters can hit it far, and he's doing that a little bit more often lately. He's got a barrel rate north of 9% each of the last 2 years, and I know barrel rate is mostly something that's controlled by the hitters, but I believe that he is one of those guys who's going to reliably have a higher one than you want. So I don't think the ERA estimators are quite an accurate picture of Nola. But then again, it's only been 33 starts between these last 2 seasons. It's not like we're dealing with that large of a sample size. And if you want to say, hey, he's got a 388 SIERA over these 2 years, he's still fine. I understand the case for it, but I do think that when he leaves it over the middle, it goes far. And I think he's going to continue leaving a few too many over the middle.
Yeah, that's a big problem. And when those hittable pitches are just getting crushed like that, it's hard to put stock into the estimators. But yeah, I with these matchups though versus Pitt at KC, I think I'm going to go 2. I could see a case where if he were dropped, and I'm sure he has been in a lot of leagues, maybe picking him up if you're desperate.
Yeah, he's coming off a couple pretty decent, only 5 inning starts. 2's probably fine just because the potential damage he could do to your ratios, but the winning chances are reasonable. So somewhere between a 2 and a 3, but I'll go 2, sure.
Braxton Ashcraft and Bubba Chandler for Pittsburgh at Philly, at Washington. Bubba Chandler's been kind of getting in on track here, which is good to see. He was kind of getting to the point where it was tough to continue starting him, but over his last 4 starts, he has a 2.82 ERA. 103 whip. Strikeouts kind of middling over that stretch. I think that was an aspect of his game that I thought there would be more of. I thought that would translate, but it has been better lately. So And Ashcraft has been fantastic pretty much all season long. So Ashcraft at Philly, at Washington, I'm going to go 4. And I think Bubba's elevated himself back up to a 3.
Yeah, I think Ashcraft 4 sounds right. Maybe I'm regretting that 5 on Parker Messick because I think Ashcraft's not far behind.
Yeah,
The
that's
matchups
okay.
maybe a little tougher here. I like him as much as I like Messick. I think both of them are guys who I'm fully bought in. It's only been half a year, but they've been good enough that
Yeah.
I am in on Ashcraft. Chandler, man, the strikeouts and walks though are still really shaky over the last 2 starts. It's 5-5 strikeouts and walks. Even though he's not given up that many runs, it's just not quite been what you want all year. But a 3, I think I'll drop to a 2 on that. I think I'm just still, I'm seeing the signs of him heading towards a better version of himself. Hasn't allowed a ton of runs lately, but just doesn't seem to be really fully in control and, dominating, putting up high strikeout numbers regularly, finding the zone. It's just still not really there for Bubba Chandler.
Fair enough. I think, with my grade there, maybe a little wishful thinking. I still have him in several leagues and, have been encouraged with what he's done lately, but totally fair going 2 on Bubba Chandler.
Yeah, I can see him flipping the switch, to be fair. Totally.
Yeah.
He could have a really good second half. I need to see a little more.
That's fair. I think, too, he was a very highly touted prospect, so I think
Right.
I'm still kind of waiting on the come there a little bit with Bubba Chandler. Now, here are a couple zeros for me. Griffin Canning, Herman Marquez, at the Cubs, at the Dodgers. Matchups take him out of the mix completely for me.
Yeah, I think with 1 start against the Dodgers, I would not touch either of those guys. If you're super desperate, I still don't think I'd touch either of these guys. 7.38 ERA for Canning, 5.76 for Marquez. Yeah, it would have to be an amazing second start next to the Dodgers to go higher than 0, and Cubs is not, so 0 seemed fine to me.
Yeah, no reason to play with fire there, I don't think. And now here's a complicated one because of what the Mariners have been doing with their, piggyback every guy in the rotation, taking turns. Kind of annoying. And with that in mind, we have Wu set to work in tandem with George Kirby's next time out. So, or the second time next week, the second turn. So to begin the week, he's versus the Angels, but then versus Toronto possibly with that tandem situation. Wu's been pretty disappointing. As a guy who was drafted as a borderline fantasy ace, 6-6 with a 4.26 ERA. Every time I check his box score, it's like, man, couldn't do a little better than that. So he's been a little disappointing. I think just given the weird tandem situation, I'm going to go 4, and maybe he doesn't even deserve that.
Yeah, do we know for sure the order of that tandem? Because if we knew that he was going to be in the spot which gave him less chance at wins, then maybe I would go down to 3. I think
I'm trusting Adam Wolf there, by the way.
Yeah, I would.
He thought that through. Yeah, he's on top of it.
Wu ought to be a 5, but with the recent run and with that weird situation, this is his earned runs in his last 7 starts: 0, 4, 0, 5, 7, 0, 5. It's either 0 or it's 4 or worse recently. He's been all over the place, so he really could blow up everything this week. So much more downside than your normal 4.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. I thought that the breakout really dated back to 2024.
Right.
And he's just been excellent, but then this year is kind of taking a turn. Definitely not what you want if you took him at the 1-2 turn or even in the first round. Now, I mentioned I picked up Tyler Mahle. Traditional leagues, even the stake league, I'm not starting him. And then this week it's at Arizona, at Colorado. Decent return from the IL for him, but even I'm going to say 0 on Tyler Mahle.
Yeah, he's not somebody I'd use in Colorado. He's not even somebody I'd use in most away games. I think that seems fine.
Now, Todd pointed out last week that Kyle Leahy's strikeout rate has been up a little bit and pitching okay for St. Louis. St. Louis is kind of a surprise team in Major League Baseball this year. But at Atlanta, at the Cubs, man, tough matchups for Leahy, who doesn't really have tremendous stuff. Even with the uptick in Ks lately, it's still kind of just average. Um, I'll go 1, but I could see the case for a 0 here.
Yeah, one seems fine. Neither of those games individually is terrifying, but they're not great, and neither is Leahy. So, not one I'd turn to in many situations. That's for sure.
And Griffin Jacks seems to be pretty well stretched out again. At KC, at Houston. Tampa Bay just keeps winning. And Jack seems to be happy that they transitioned him back to a starting role. Of course, was drafted as their likely closer, and I think picked up in a lot of leagues since he transitioned back. At KC, at Houston, I'm thinking a 3 on Jacks. Definitely a guy I think should be rostered and probably started in most leagues.
Yeah, I'll go 3. He's got a 24% strikeout rate and a 7% walk rate since moving back to the rotation. That's a pretty good combo. Tempted to even go 4, except he's not yet gone more than 5 innings, which means if he goes any less than that, then he won't be getting a win. So that'll keep it as a 3 for now, but definitely a pretty encouraging trend to his season.
Absolutely. And next up, Jacob DeGrom. DeGrom's given up 15 homers in 88 and two-thirds innings. It's been better lately, though, reining in the long ball. Just 2 allowed in his last 5 starts. So I know for a while his fastball was getting pummeled, but trending in the positive direction. At Cleveland versus Detroit, he's fallen off that 5 tier for me, but I think a 4. I still think DeGrom, even at his age, his injuries, still has a lot to offer.
I'm willing to still go 5. I think this is still Jacob DeGrom. He's had 1 bad start in his last 6, so there's a chance that things turn south if the home runs do become more of a problem. But 3.09 ERA over those last 6 starts, I'm pretty encouraged with the way he's looked recently.
Yeah, guys trending kind of in the opposite direction. Trey Savage, 3.56 ERA overall, but actually his last time out only 1 earned run, but had given up a 5 spot and a 6 spot earlier in June. He's got a 5.70 ERA in June. Underlying numbers not so bad. Versus Cleveland at Seattle, I'm thinking a 4 on Savage. I still believe, and I think you expected some ups and downs for him coming off the injury and off his postseason run. I do think there are more good days than bad ahead for Savage, so I'm going 4.
I think I'll stick with a 3 versus the Mets at Mariners. That's not. It's a decent enough pair of outings. The walks have just been all over the place for Savage, though. In his last 5 starts, it's gone 7-2, 6-0, 5. So 3 with 5 or more walks in his last 5. That scares me. So I can't go above
trust
3.
the stuff. It's so weird to see a guy with that stuff not trust it. Like, just get it over the plate. But good point. Those free passes will burn you. So I got you down as a 3 on Savage. And then finally, Miles Michaelis. That's going to be a 0, right?
Yeah, don't even think we really need to look at who he's playing, but it is at Boston versus Pittsburgh. But yeah, maybe in a 32 team league, I'd consider Miles Michaelis, maybe a 40 team or something like that.
Hey, those leagues are out there. They exist.
They probably are, yeah.
I'm not playing in any myself. So
No.
I'll put a 0 on old Miles Michaelis. All right, let's recap our 2-star pitcher grades for next week, the week of June 29th, 2026. Erod, Eduardo Rodriguez, I say 4, Eric 3. Gage Jump, I say 4, Eric 3. Grant Holmes, 3. Ranger Suarez, I say 4, Eric 5. Shota Imanaga, 3. Nick Lodolo, 3. Parker Messick, I say 3, Eric 5. Tanner Bybee, I say 2, Eric 3. Kyle Freeland, 0. Sean Burke, I say 2, Eric 3. Eric Fetty, 1. Eric Lauer, 3. Sandy Alcantara, 3. Yuri Perez, 2. Brandon Sproat, I say 1. Eric, 2. Shane Drohan, 2. Zebby Matthews, I say 2. Eric, 1. Nolan McLean, 4. Ryan Weathers, I say 3. Eric, 4. Aaron Nola, 2. Braxton Ashcraft, 4. Bubba Chandler, I say 3. Eric, 2. Griffin Canning, 0. Herman Marquez, 0. Brian Wu, 4. Tyler Malley, 0. Kyle Leahy, 1. Griffin Jacks, 3. Jacob deGrom, I say 4. Eric, 5. Trey Savage, I say 4. Eric, 3. And finally, Miles Michaelis, 0. Well, really appreciate you stepping in, Eric. Great stuff, great analysis. And anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, this was fun. Glad we got a chance to do this. I hope I'm not giving out 5s way too easily. Maybe you know your scale better than me, but an interesting mix. Of
Very inexact science, so don't.
Yeah,
don't.
for sure. Nobody
At least on
goes
my end.
back and tallies all your ratings and comes
Actually,
up with
somebody did do that once.
Oh,
Jeff
wow.
Zimmerman did once. I don't know if he
And-
tallied the rankings, but he did a study on like how many times pitchers actually make that second start. It's only like 60%. So keep that in mind.
Right.
That's a good thing to just keep in mind that that second outing is far from guaranteed. This is a exercise we do, but you can't always bank on that second start. So keep that in mind. But yeah, great stuff, Eric. Appreciate it. And I look forward to hosting with you on MLB Network Radio. Thank you all for being with us. We'll catch you next week on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, sponsored by SeatGeek.